Coming up next on Art Rocks, Shreveport is part of a new trend aimed at helping artists to thrive.
To be given a free booth for 3 weeks is pretty unheard of.
We discover the art of fire spinning.
What brought this troupe together was just a common passion for the art and for wanting to create something as a group.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to make a face mask?
Once I start making something, the masks grow themselves. They adopt personalities.
And we meet a Sacramento artist whose work can never be duplicated.
I'm just having fun with what I find and trying to make a picture out of pieces and fitting the puzzle pieces together.
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Rocks.
Art Rocks is made possible by the Foundation for Excellence in Louisiana Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Art Rocks. Across the country, arts districts are finding ways to make it easier for budding artists to connect with their audiences. They're creating pop-up art studios which provide free spaces where artists can gather, collaborate, and create. Artspace in Shreveport, Louisiana is an inspiring example that supplies free workspaces for artists working across all disciplines and attracts audiences to connect with them.
On any given day, you can walk into Artspace in downtown Shreveport and find artists plying their trades, showing off some of their latest creations. And if they're lucky, they'll be making some sales.
The pop-up downtown program has many purposes, and one of them is to make sure that the artists in Northwest Louisiana know that this is home to make their living. Artspace and pop-up are that practicum for artists to be able to show that over the course of a month they can make their product and sell their product. And it's important for us to make that investment in artists because we're investing right back in our community.
Some artists are invited to occupy a booth more than once.
This is my third one in 2 years. I did 2 last year. This is my first one this year. It's been a great experience to build my customer base.
Tracy McCormick specializes in making jewelry from metal clay.
What metal clay is recycled metal that's ground up real finely and made into a clay. So I buy the clay, make my designs, fire them in a kiln, and it melts the metal back together to its solid original form. Right now, my most popular designs are the Louisiana designs and a pelican design.
McCormick says working in the public space is much better than working at home because of the interaction with potential customers.
I've learned that my customer base, they like organic materials. They love anytime I hear that something's recycled, they're on that.
Only about 20 feet across from McCormick, we found Meredith Piper creating fabric for her designs on an old-fashioned loom.
I've loved to work with different mediums since I was a child, and I did a lot of woodworking in college. So the past couple years I've been working with knitting and different materials, but it wasn't until the past year or so I bought a loom, and I've made a few as well.
Piper combines wood, paint, and textiles for many of her creations.
I pull inspiration from the Southwest, so different patterns, color schemes, very tribal, a lot going on, and I try to use a range of textures, so thick, thin, different widths to provide interest. So as I'm weaving, I'll follow my sketch, but that tends to morph into its own, and I'll just go with it.
Piper says she's both thankful and beyond excited to be given free space to showcase her work.
The last couple of years I've done plenty of festivals and other things throughout the region, and most cost money. So to be given a free booth for 3 weeks is pretty unheard of.
Right across from Piper, we met Megan Davis-Taylor. She specializes in painting animals.
Well, it's been really great because I get to get all the feedback from people. That has given me the experience of coming into a place where people can come to see me, and I get to know what kind of colors that they're wanting in their houses and what animals that they're really liking. And I also I am doing a lot of custom orders too.
Even if you're not a fan of furry or feathery creatures now, there's a good chance you could be after seeing Taylor's work come to life.
I want people to feel happy when they look at my paintings. So I use bright colors, I integrate a lot of colors into the animal, and I always challenge myself by taking, I guess what we would call ugly animals of Louisiana, like possums and armadillos, and I've tried to make them look more attractive. It makes you go, why would an armadillo have a flower in its mouth? And you kind of start making up your own story. The chickens are actually, there's always one bossy one in it, and she's kind of bossing the other ones around. Some of them look confused, some of them look agitated, but it is a conversation piece not only for your house, but it's for you to make up the storyline as well.
Robin Horn Strickland was also enjoying a free booth the week we visited Artspace in Shreveport. She enjoys working with wire and vintage beads.
I got into making wire wrap jewelry, and I make a lot of rings, but I make earrings, I can make pendants, bracelets, anything really. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to be in a pop-up shop. It was a great opportunity for me to showcase all of the vintage stock that I have and make some custom orders on the spot and actually get this all out of my living room.
Strickland says that her contact with people not only improves sales, it also helps establish relationships that generate art supplies.
80% of my stock is vintage. I was blessed to inherit it from a woman that made jewelry for about 30 years, and I let my customers pick what they like and select a wire. I met the man next door who repairs guitars for local musicians, and he brought me over a box of guitar strings.
Not only is the Shreveport community providing free shop space to artists, it is also helping them with marketing.
Liz Swain and the development and Artspace have been amazing at putting things together, like the trolley that comes on Thursdays, live music, Facebook, social media. Everybody's kind of pulling together to get people in here, so we've had really good responses.
The artists are also being counseled on how to market their work.
They have to have goals, most of them do. We're going to help them define those goals and then prepare a business plan. It's about time management, marketing, branding. We focus a lot on social media, which is a big deal these days.
To learn more about Artspace, visit artspaceshreveport.com. Now, no matter where you live in Louisiana, opportunities to connect with the arts are everywhere, if only you know where to look. Here's a list of some goings-on around the state. For more information on these events, visit the website at lpb.org/artrocks. And to find more arts activities, check out countryroadsmag.com. At one time or another, everyone has been told, don't play with fire. Lucky for us, one group of Central Florida performers ignores that warning.
Usually people haven't seen fire performing at all, so sometimes they're like in shock. They're like, how do they not burn themselves? And you know, so it's exciting to see their faces.
Radiant Illusions kind of started out of the need for all of us to sort of have a name to perform under. We all had aspirations of spinning more professionally. So to do that, you kind of need to be spinning under a professional name and be your own business.
I think what brought this troupe together was just a common passion for the art and for wanting to create something as a group. A lot of us have been spinning individually, but coming together to do group choreography is a really cool and exciting exercise, and getting to do that in front of people is really great.
I was addicted as soon as I started, because I was flowing before, but not the same as I do now. I didn't have like the sense of community.
part of like the beauty of practice and your art is that you get to show other people and bounce ideas off of them. So it's in the sharing. I think that there's this misconception when people meet fire dancers that it's a thing that's geared toward performance, and that's why you're doing it. But most people I know, they spin and they do fire performance for themselves in the same way that people go for a run or paint for themselves.
Impressing people is nice, but I like to impress myself and see what I can do and push my limit. You know, I'm like, okay, I've gotten these things down, now let's see what else I can do.
Looking at juggling and going, oh, whoa, that's like learning a new language. I want that challenge. That's very different from like the ego side of I want to look cool doing that thing.
Flow can mean a lot of different things to people. It can be this almost transcendental state where you completely lose yourself in this moment and your body and your prop is doing everything perfectly, everything properly timed. It's one of the things where we can kind of let go and play. It's an art that we finally craft and tune and perfect and put our all in. It looks really, really cool.
Anytime you're spinning, you're technically performing. And when you're performing for fun, it's exactly what it sounds like. You're performing for fun. It's more like a practice. You can focus a little more on maybe trying a new move that you haven't done before, haven't felt comfortable with doing before. And then when you're performing for a client, you're just doing everything you already know you can do. You know, you're kind of playing it safe, but you're doing all the pretty moves.
I think about this on like a constant basis. So I may be like at work or walking down the street and I just get this idea in my head. I'm like, okay, next time I pick up that prop, I want to try this. You can break down 3 tricks to their incremental motions and connect them all together in a totally new trick. So you can really just take like 3 tricks you're comfortable with and make 3 or 9 more tricks you've never heard of before. Now that my hands are all warmed up.
The more you do it, the more people push those boundaries, and then the more things you learn that you've never thought of before, or ways to do things that you haven't thought of before, or just more patterns, more intricacies.
There's always that next prop. There's always that next move that you just can't do no matter how hard you try yet. But if you spin for 3 or 4 months and keep trying at it, you'll eventually get it.
For me, every day practicing and getting better is just about seeing if I can.
Multimedia artist Sherry Hill says she's probably been to every computer store in Houston, Texas, but she's not looking for laptops, desktops or tablets. Hill searches for tech store trash and transforms it into unique works of art. Here's her story.
The idea of masks in everyday life and in our culture just appealed to me because every morning any one of us gets up out of bed and puts on a suit or something and goes to work. We're essentially adopting a different identity, and the idea of actually putting on the mask to go out to the public and transforming one's own identity really just intrigued me. Hi, my name is Sherry Hill. I am a mixed media artist. I do a lot of painting and constructions with papers and stuff. I am also a practicing architect. I have been playing with the idea of transitioning 2D painting or art into some kind of a 3D construction. I started making these masks about 2 years ago, but the ideas have been sort of simmering in my head for a long time. I have this computer box. I break it down into sheets, then I cut out the shapes and I might score them to make 3-dimensional forms, glue them together to tape them together. So that's the basis of the form of the mask. Then I paint them all black. The black works because Ultimately, I'm going to be using very colorful color papers, and black shows up those colors much better. When I do art, a lot of times I don't have a specific idea of what I want to create, but I have sort of an idea on the direction in which I want to work. So it's partly planned and partly not planned. There was a piece about the gay marriage, immigration issues, and the building of walls on our borders. And I started thinking about how it takes just a little bit of a switching of your perspective to change your worldview. And so there were two masks that were made during that time. One was called The Wall, and it has a kind of a wall in the middle with two different faces facing opposite of each other. And the other one is called A Slight Shift in Attitude, and that was one half of the mask just a little bit different from the other half. So those two masks actually started out with an idea. Part of the fun of making these masks is that once I start making something, the masks grow themselves. They adopt personalities. I think most artists are collectors by heart, and perhaps they are artists because they do see beauty in things that would otherwise be in the dumpster. I do try to see in each item the positive use for it. I am a preservationist, period, so I save things like shipping boxes and just anything that I see and look at and thought, well, I can probably use that somewhere. The shipping containers came because we had to replace a bunch of computers all at the same time, and when the mass idea finally gelled, the boxes were perfect because the shipping containers for computers are particularly strong. I grew up in Taiwan, and I lived there until I was 13 years old. It's when I moved to the United States. And I think most artists are the same. They create art that come out of themselves. We took a trip back to Taiwan for the first time in 2012. That was a huge influence in the art that I started doing once I came back. That trip brought back a lot of memories and a lot of associations, a lot of feelings that I think added to my work. When the plane landed in Taiwan, it was like boom. All the smell of the food, all the sights and the colors, and maybe the mask was really influenced by all that sensory stimulation that I felt.
The months of February through May are exciting times for bird lovers because of the large number of migrant species that visit in search of mild weather and abundant food. The snowy egrets of Avery Island are the focus of this week's Louisiana Treasures segment.
Many people think of Avery Island as the producer of our world-famous Tabasco sauce. But one of the McElhennys of Tabasco fame was also a bird enthusiast. Edmund Avery McElhenny created a haven for egrets that has resulted in thousands of birds visiting the island each year. In the 1890s, McElhenny laid several beds of bamboo across a man-made lagoon. He collected 8 snowy egret fledglings, placed them in a bamboo enclosure, and fed and nurtured them for months. The next fall, McElhenny released the egrets to migrate across the Gulf of Mexico. When spring returned, so did 6 of the 8 egrets. The number increased with each migration. By 1911, the population had risen to 100,000, and McElhenny christened the sanctuary Bird City. McElhenny conducted his experiment at a time when snowy egrets were nearly hunted to extinction for their attractive plumage, then used in fashionable ladies' hats.
Along with the egrets, visitors to Avery Island might also spot animals, including alligators, deer and raccoons, that also call this intriguing salt dome in Iberia Parish home. Moving out west now, Sacramento, California's Maureen Hood always knew that she would become an artist. But finding a medium that captured her artistic expressions was a challenge until she found the answer in pieces all around her.
I think it was probably when I was about 5 years old, I recall making the statement that I'm going to be an artist someday. And I'm the daughter of a carpenter and a seamstress. And so there was always wood lying around, pieces of wood. There were always pieces of cloth lying around. So it was a matter of, like any child would do, putting them together and building on them. So I took some painting lessons, some oil painting lessons, but they just didn't jive. So I thought, well, all right, I need to find something else to do. I tried some mixed media things, tried some sculpture, and I always thought, though, that you had to paint to be a good artist or to really be able to express yourself. It took me all the way until my undergraduate work at Davis to figure out that I really didn't have to paint anymore. So that was the beginning of putting together things in pieces and papers and paint and all kinds of different things, cloth for a while, and kind of distilled itself down to the paper and paint process that I do now. Well, I first choose the subject. And most of the time it's photographically based, either on photographs that I've taken in my travels or just around town, or sometimes the photographs are vintage photographs that I found at garage sales. Some are vintage photographs of my own family, and some are cutouts from vintage magazines, nothing current. I prefer images that are a little bit older. I'm really into the natural beauty around us. It's amazing. And other artists, I never ever tire of looking at other artists' work, even if I hate it. It's just, there's something about that creative process that really inspires me. I like to create a mixed media form of art. If I had to describe it to a child, it would probably be that I'm just having fun with what I find and trying to make a picture out of pieces and fitting the puzzle pieces together. And so I build a huge stack of papers, and after that stack of papers I just start putting them on the canvas and arranging them to whatever looks good at the time. And of course that changes day to day, so it makes it a little more difficult. I have an emotional response to every piece of paper that I put on, and that's something that's so deep inside that I don't even realize it's happening. And once they're all in one place, and I seem to be fairly satisfied with the way they look on the canvas or the paper, then it's gluing them down. It's an art history lesson on the canvas. I think my art is a little bit different than most collage makers. I think other artists could do maybe something similar, but I think it's really impossible for anyone to do the same art as another person. It's because it comes from such a deep place emotionally and intellectually, and no two people are alike. It's just because it's me and I made it, and it's just going to be hard for anyone else to do the same thing. It's wonderful to come up here in my studio and shut the door and turn on the music, just to let go. You know, you can't ask for more than having fun.
For more information, visit maureenhood.com. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of Art Rocks. But remember, you can always watch episodes of Art Rocks at lpb.org/artrocks. It's also a great place to find out about what's going on with the arts across the state. So until next time, I'm James Fox Smith, and thanks for watching.